Welcome to the dog days of summer, baby. Dog day afternoon. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Dog days. This is what we're dealing with now. We're talking about articles, we're talking about trade pitches, and we're talking about responses to those trade pitches. And I'm not talking about my response. No. You see, this article from Heavy.com goes over a trade pitch involving the Maple Leafs and the Canadiens. You can quite evidently see Mike Matheson's lovely mug over here on the image. But this article has a response article on another website that responds to the very first article, so I'm going to leave two links in the description. Firstly, to this, Heavy.com's trade pitch sees Maple Leafs acquiring $39 million defenseman from rival. And, that's kind of cut off. $39 million defenseman. Wow, I wonder who could it be? It's Mike Matheson. And I'll also leave a link in the description to this. NHLTradeTalk.com from yesterday. Proposed Matheson trade makes little sense for the Habs or the Leafs. You know, I know it's going to inevitably come up in the comments section. Somebody is going to request some sort of a conversation about these articles, so why not nip it in the bud right now and just kind of talk about what's being talked about, because this article did get quite a bit of views. 12.6 thousand views on this Heavy.com pitch over here. Props to Cole Shelton, the writer, for putting it together. This article goes over the idea of a trade. Heavy.com is proposing a deal that would see the Maple Leafs acquire Mike Matheson from the Canadiens in an intriguing move between arch rivals. The Leafs would acquire Matheson, and the Canadiens would acquire Simon Benoit, Nick Robertson, and a 2028 third-round pick. The proposed deal would be an intriguing one between division rivals, but one that would make sense for both teams. I doubt that. Montreal gets out of Matheson's deal as he has been shopped, while Toronto adds to its already stacked defense, and the Habs get two young, impactful NHL players. The Maple Leafs would acquire Matheson, who is in the final year of his 8-year, $39 million deal with the Canadiens. The 31-year-old would bolster the Maple Leafs blue line and add some more offense to the back end, which was an issue last season. Matheson recorded 31 points in 80 games this previous year. His career high is 62 points, which he did 2 years ago. In return, the Maple Leafs would give up Benoit, who would replace Matheson on the Canadiens' blue line. Benoit is from Quebec and has 2 years left in his 3-year, $4.05 million deal, but with Toronto acquiring Matheson, he would become expendable. Benoit would be able to be a third-pairing D-man for the Habs and add some more physicality to the lineup. Robertson, meanwhile, is an RFA, but would be a good middle six winger who can add some more depth scoring to the lineup. Now, I'm just going to say this right here. I don't think this trade works out for the Montreal Canadiens. Firstly, Matheson for Benoit, you're getting worse on the back end there. I don't think that's really up for debate. Simon Benoit isn't as good as Mike Matheson is. But also, you have to think, the reason Matheson is being shopped isn't necessarily because his contract sucks. $4.875 million for a guy who was able to get 62 points last year as a D-man is pretty good. I think a lot of Canadiens fans don't think of Matheson's contract as a behemoth anchor, but really, you just don't have room for him. If you wanted to give top 4 minutes to Goulet, Hudson, Dobson, and I guess Alexandre Carrier, there isn't really room for Matheson in the top 4. Now, you can force him onto the right side, or you could force Goulet to the right side and move things around like that, but it's not really the most projectable way to hold these guys in the NHL, especially since most of them are young. Obviously, Dobson is number 1 right D, you're not going to move him from that. But then with Goulet and Hudson, you would prefer them to develop on their strong side. Mike Matheson is on that strong side too, but if you have Goulet, Hudson, Matheson as your left D-core, then you don't have room for Struble and Xhekaj. So there are just a number of guys on Montreal. Getting a guy like Simon Benoit added onto this Canadiens team wouldn't really be helping out the Canadiens much. I mean, the article says, he could be a third-pairing guy. Is he better than Jaden Struble? I don't know. Is he better than David Reinbacher on the right? I don't know. Then you add Nick Robertson into the mix, and normally I would absolutely love a Nick Robertson acquisition in Montreal. I think this is the kind of guy that fits the Habs' identity, he fits their style, his goal-scoring ability. I mean, this guy has been a shooter the past few years. Maybe not the most productive guy out there, but when he shows up, and he does produce. 15 goals in 69 games the previous year, 14 goals in 56 games the year before that, all with limited minutes, and he's only 23 years old. The thing that I think about, though, with Robertson is he is almost exactly the kind of player the Canadiens just got in Bolduc. Like, they are almost the same. Even in terms of the physicality, Robertson does play with a bit of an edge. He is not a wuss out there, even though he is 5'9". He's not afraid to go forecheck. He's not afraid to be a little bit of an energy ball out there. Plus, he has a blistering shot. Bolduc does almost the exact same thing. And I would probably say that Bolduc is more projectable as a long-term, higher-tiered NHL star. Because you think about it, he's younger. He scored 19 goals as a rookie in the National Hockey League. I like Bolduc a lot compared to Nick Robertson. I think grabbing Robertson in a trade for Mike Matheson would be kind of redundant here. I just don't really see the extra benefit. Sure, is Robertson better than maybe an Oliver Kapanen or somebody? I'd probably say so. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. But burying Robertson on the fourth line would be pretty much putting him through the same problems that he got in Toronto. So then again, I don't really think this deal works out for Montreal. Matheson in Toronto, I think, alleviating some of the offensive load from Morgan Rielly's perspective, I do think that's actually a reasonably good idea. But with all this in mind, the Heavy.com article will be linked in the description. I wanted to go over on NHLTradeTalk.com because they did respond to the very same trade pitch from Heavy.com, seeing the Maple Leafs acquiring veteran Matheson from Montreal in exchange for Benoit, Robertson, and a third-round pick. While the idea might seem intriguing on paper, especially for Toronto looking to add an offensive punch, the numbers don't add up terribly well. Matheson, entering the final year of his deal, carries out a $4.875 million cap hit. In this hypothetical deal, the Leafs would be sending out Benoit's $1.35 million salary and then the unsigned Robertson, meaning the club would be taking on over $3.5 million in additional cap obligations. As it stands, the Maple Leafs don't have that kind of space to play with. In fact, the deal would put them roughly $675,000 over the salary cap, forcing Treliving to make additional moves just to stay compliant. That's a steep price for a player they don't necessarily need. Toronto's blue line is already deep, especially with Chris Tanev and OEL. The team also has Rielly, McCabe, and Brandon Carlo. Treliving has made it clear he likes the length and physicality of his decor. While Matheson would add some offensive flair, he doesn't offer enough of a game-changing upgrade to justify the cap crunch when the real need is more scoring up front. If the idea is to gain that scoring from the back end, it can only mean Toronto has run out of realistic options for their top six forward group. Meanwhile, the Habs, for their part, could benefit from shedding salary on a player they no longer really need. However, as one commenter on the post noted, Kent Hughes likes Matheson and has already said there's no rush to trade him. The Habs need a second-line center, and the return from Toronto doesn't fill that need. From Toronto's perspective, this move is like a forced fit. For Montreal, it removes a tradable asset and doesn't bring them back what they're ideally looking for. So, yeah, we kind of did a lot of reading in this video. Both articles will be linked in the description, but I think this is kind of rare, is it not? Where we see one article going out there and saying, hey, let's talk about this trade. Could we see this trade go down? Montreal, Toronto, Mike Matheson, is there a deal to be had? And then we see another article on another website that's like, nah, we can't. Sorry, it's not a good idea. It doesn't work for either side. Toronto would get on too much cap, and Montreal doesn't really want to trade this guy away. You know what? I'm kind of liking this sort of combative journalism, if you even want to say it. Combative editorialism, if you want to call it that instead. So with all that in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this Heavy.com trade pitch between the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs? Matheson to Toronto in exchange for Benoit, Robertson, and a third. In 2028, nonetheless. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.